27 people watching. Might as well get started. So I guess we can start by just kind of introducing the people that we have on the call here. So my name's Trent. Obviously, I'm one of the YAM launch team. Basically, I'm sure you've seen me in the Discord and on Twitter and whatnot. I do pretty much everything other than the main hardcore engineering, strategy, community management, all of that kind of stuff. Excited to get these calls going and have a little bit more face-to-face interfacing. I'll let Brock go ahead and do a little introduction. I guess maybe first, I feel like people probably don't know much about Brock and I's background. So just to give people some of that context, Brock and I, in kind of early 2019, started working on a yield optimization protocol that was similar to Wirearn in terms of how it balanced interest rate optimization across Compound, DYDX, and Fulcrum. Starting earlier this year, we decided to go more of a prop shop route and have been doing a lot of liquidations and arbitrage strategies, all of which have been on hold since we started the great YAM experiment and protocol. And so, we've been in this space for a long time, Brock, with a lot of complex solidity engineering, often with a specific focus on, these inter-protocol transactions, which is obviously pretty core to the YAM setup. So yeah, that's just a little brief background on us. I'll let Brock take over.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Brock. I'm Trent's younger brother. I do currently most of the solidity development for the YAM protocol, and a little bit of front end as well. I, as Trent said, have been in the space for quite a while. And yeah, that's basically my role, is mostly the solidity development. And I also help contribute with some ideas as well. But
Nate, you want to give a little intro on yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I am full-time solidity engineer. I also do some back-end node stuff. I currently work full-time at Total. I've just been helping out doing code review, writing the delegation snapshot tool, miscellaneous things really.
Christopher, Mick, either one of you guys?
Mick, you want to go first? Or I can?
You can.
All right, cool. Yeah, my name is Christopher Weil. I'm just a contributing strategist, helping out as I'm able. My background is actually in entertainment and film and video production. So I'll probably be more involved once we have more resources for educational materials, advertising, marketing, that sort of thing. But yeah, I just love the space and love being able to contribute as I'm able. So I'm a big fan.
Great.
My name is Mick Hagan. I'm a fan of YAM. I'm a fan of this experiment. I'm just a community contributor, contributing strategist, I think is my official Discord title. I'm the founder of a protocol called Mainframe Protocol. We're working on fixed rate lending and borrowing. Also the CEO of a company called Genesis Block. We're building a digital bank that's powered by crypto, powered by DeFi, powered by a lot of this amazing tech around decentralized protocols. So I'm just a fan of YAM and happy to help in any way that I can.
Very cool. Well, I know that we really appreciate you guys helping out in all the myriad ways you do, because obviously, like, this is a really big project, and I feel like sometimes people don't quite have the scope of how big this thing of like the protocol, the treasury, the governance, future products, it all is. So, having smart people contributing is like the only way that this thing is gonna move forward. So really appreciate you guys and all the other contributors and just general community that is willing to put in thought and time and effort into this. So going into, what this governance call is for, it's really just a way for us to increase our touch points with the community and make sure that, where our resources are being dedicated is more clear, what things we're working on, updates on that development, as well as what's on the docket for the future in terms of proposals. And so this governance call is like really going to be something that probably iterates itself over the next few weeks as we get feedback from the community on what's helpful and what's not helpful, and kind of what you all would like to see in terms of this call and these updates. So currently they're going to be at 5 p.m. UTC every Thursday, and we can shift that timing, we can shift that frequency, but we're learning as we go on these calls, and some feedback and input on what's most helpful is going to be critical for them being as productive as they can be. And so after this call, we are going to post a forum post with some summaries and this agenda, and definitely call for feedback. So if you have thoughts about how to make this smoother in the future, getting that feedback would be great. So unless any of the other contributors have anything to add on that front, I think we might as well go into some of the core development updates that we have.
Sure, yeah. I'll hop in here. So just going off the list here, ETM Treasury update. So I've been batching these in terms of rounds, and I'm calling this proposal round 2. And there are a number of changes, particularly around getting the purchase asset to be ETH as opposed to YUSD. That includes a new rebaser, a whole host of other aspects. Pretty much touches every corner of our protocol except for the migrator. And so that code is complete. It's on GitHub. And the audit is scheduled to start today. It's a 2-person week audit length, which means at most it'll last until 14 days from now. Most likely it'll be shorter than that. Just depends on PeckShield's availability in terms of their personnel. It's obviously a very busy time for a lot of auditors. So the actual time can vary whether or not they have the capacity. If anyone has any questions on this, Nate did a code review of it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right, on to front-end development updates. So right now, this, as we'll touch on later, front-end is, we had Clinton, but Clinton is not doing YAM full-time. So there is inherently some slowness on front-end developments, which is something we would like to fix. But one thing we do have a community member named 0xe, who has been putting in some work and now has admin privileges over the repo. He can do a lot of the work I cannot. I've submitted a PR for adding a dashboard that does an overview of the ecosystem, but it definitely needs some more work that I hope 0xe can work on. Additionally, there's just some cleanup that needs to go on there, but it's definitely not my strong suit. Yep, I think that covers it. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I would say this is an area where if people do have the capacity to help out with the front end and that's in their skill set and they want to contribute, it's definitely an area where we could use some additional work done. And I think we've got a fairly new kind of Trello board style project management board on the GitHub that I'll include in the list of links that can start to help clarify for any developers, where our current initiatives are and where they might be able to hop in.
Trent and Brock, could you guys maybe speak briefly just to like what kind of features or what kind of front end accessibility you're thinking are sort of coming up next or ideally would be in place?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the dashboard, the stats dashboard. I think getting some more visibility into how the rebases are actually affecting the entire monetary system of YAM would be a really big improvement. And I know that, as Brock was saying, that's those efforts are well underway. So hopefully we should have that relatively soon. As far as most of the other elements of the current YAM website are in a pretty good shape. We've got the documentation and all the current YAM functionality is pretty much there, right? I think the biggest need is now looking forward to, as we'll talk about in a little bit, building out our products, and particularly with the bug hack protection protocol, that's going to be something that requires an entire user interface. And so it probably makes sense to begin concepting some of that stuff really in tandem with the smart contract development. Once we have like a really, mostly final spec in terms of what the kind of core functionality is going to be. So that's also a great opportunity for someone who wants to get involved and like contribute in a more significant way on a longer term project or basis with YAM. Cool way to get involved and like have ownership over what will be YAM's likely first product and something pretty innovative and cool.
And we have a UI feedback channel as well in the Discord for people watching who if something comes up and whether it's a bug or whether it's just functionality that would really just make or break the ease of interfacing with the protocol. I think we all want to hear it, right? Who cares where a good idea comes from as long as it's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quick question, Trent, on the insurance protocol, and maybe we can talk about this later, but just on the flow, like, are you going to be the one doing wireframes for that? Like, what's kind of the flow of the development process? If somebody wants to help out on UI or design, or implementation of UI or just design, where do they start? Is it like, are you going to kind of come up with at least like some basic wireframes that then the community or community members can kind of take from there?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that GitHub Trello board, project management tracking, is a great place to start. And I don't know how actively that's been being maintained. So that's probably something we should focus a little bit more on. I can definitely do wireframes and some basic design mockups and prototyping. I'm willing to fill in wherever is really necessary. So I think it's really just a matter of getting whoever wants to collaborate on that together and kind of taking things from there. So I think brings up a good point. We really need to probably start its own channel in the Discord for discussions around that and getting people, the strategy people thinking about and trying to poke holes in the mechanisms, as well as the more developer focused people getting in there. And I think that's a great action item to add on to things. And we've got that covered a little bit lower. Moving on to some of the Treasury management updates, if there are no other comments on the front end stuff. So with the DPI SAT purchase progress, so we've been talking with a trading desk called Grapefruit Trading that is a partner with SET Protocol that does a lot of their OTC deals. And so we've been discussing with them the best way in which to do an OTC deal with a DAO. And so Brock's been creating essentially an OTC deal smart contract that will allow YAM to send funds into this contract, and then Grapefruit Trading on the other end to send their part of the trade into the contract. If it satisfies the correct parameters, they will then be able to withdraw the funds that YAM submitted, and YAM will receive the funds that Grapefruit submitted. So we'll be using, I don't know if we've fully decided. I think we'll probably have to unwrap the YUSD, but we'll be taking YUSD out of the Treasury and using that to fund the purchase of this DPI set. And so I believe that contract is mostly finished, and that'll be submitted to the GitHub repo later today or tomorrow. So everyone will be able to kind of see exactly how the mechanics of that are working. And as we then continue the conversations with Grapefruit on all of the particulars, we'll obviously be sure to make clear exactly how that's going to all be functioning.
Could that contract someday be kind of its own product around like an OTC escrow type product someday? Maybe, I don't know. I'm just curious about that contract.
It could be. Generally, the first step is, build something for your needs and then abstract it out later on once you know the abstraction. I would not say we know the abstraction yet to make it into a real product. So at some point, it certainly could be. I would not say in its current form that it's going to be it's abstractable enough for anyone to use it as a product.
It does bring up something that I'm like pretty interested in that seems to be developing, which is like, because YAM is so on the vanguard of like doing things in this decentralized way and like not having any other choice but to really operate in full decentralization, that we are building out and going to continue building out a number of kind of like DAO infrastructure type things just to fit our needs in terms of something like this OTC deal, in terms of something like our contributor vesting pool. And so I'm really excited to see where some of that stuff ends up taking us.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. As we get into current yield updates, you can go to LoanScan to see what YUSD is yielding currently. Right now it's about 7%. So those numbers are a little different than what you might see on the YVault interface because of how there's just a slight difference in calculation. The YVault is like a little bit lagging, whereas the LoanScan is I think like current at each moment. So that's obviously a decrease in terms of the like 80% that it was when we originally made the decision to go with YUSD. Ultimately, it's still the highest yielding stablecoin, and so it makes a lot of sense to be going that route. A lot of it has to do with Curve's fall in price. So I think ultimately, I don't see any need to change that in the short term, though it's obviously something to consider that as rates have fallen from, pretty astronomical to more in line with other stablecoins, are we comfortable with the risk that is kind of compounded on the stablecoins and then kind of 2 smart contracts on top of that? Just something to kind of keep in mind as we look at the various treasury management strategies and how to diversify some of that risk. As we do think about this, the future of the Treasury and how we're going to manage that, FedEx has posted a really detailed and thoughtful proposal in terms of how to manage, kind of really actively manage part of the Treasury, which would be some subset of, the 3 million that we have in YUSD right now. So it's looking at, various levels of kind of risk for that portfolio, settling somewhere around a fairly conservative portfolio that has some yield farming, some equities, some hedging. So I think it's does a lot of the legwork to get us in a place where we can start actually mobilizing to say, okay, we've got at least a little bit of a framework in what we want this to look like. How do we go about executing it? So I think that pushed the ball forward in a really major way. So really grateful for FedUs for doing that work for us.
Real quick, and I don't want to take up too much time with it, but two things that have come up a couple of times just in discussions about treasury management. Trent, you brought up tail risk with some of these stable coins, and I think a lot of people in crypto already have an idea of what you mean by that, but it might be worth just bringing up some of that tail risk that we're trying to diversify away from. And then also, a lot of people are kind of wondering, why don't we hold YAM in the treasury? It might be worth just a quick explanation for our thought process on that.
Yeah, great point. So basically, when we talk about tail risk, we're talking about some sort of like black swan type event that would cause one piece of the treasury to like really blow up in a major way. And currently, because it's all in YUSD, if DAI blows up, USDT, Tether blows up, TUSD or USDC blows up, or if Curve blows up, or if the Y vaults blow up, that has the potential to wipe out the entire treasury, right? And so one of the things with diversifying is that we are at least allowing ourselves to survive any one tail risk, any one black swan event. So that seems really important for the protocol's long-term survivability.
And a blow up can mean anything from a major hack to a substantial change in government regulation, or any number of things.
Yeah, exactly. And then in terms of not holding YAM in the treasury, I think there's kind of two main things going on here in terms of why it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to hold YAM in the treasury. The first is that the protocol can print YAMs at any point. And so we already have essentially access to YAMs for anything that we would want to use YAMs for. But that doesn't mean necessarily that we wouldn't want some exposure to the price appreciation of YAM. I think where this differs from how a lot of protocol treasuries might operate is that if a standard protocol wants to get exposure to its own successful upside, it needs to have that token in the treasury. With YAM, because of the way the rebase works, if YAM price increases, the YAM protocol is already getting exposure to that upside through a positive rebase. So this is something that we haven't talked about that much lately in terms of this kind of mode of upside, but it was just something I was thinking about in the last couple of days. So would be interested to kind of continue that discussion. Does that make sense?
I think so, but I think people will let us know if it doesn't.
Yeah, cool. Okay, cool. So product development updates with the YAM crop protection, bug hack protection. Brock's been busy with a number of other protocol development updates, so hasn't dedicated too much work on this since kind of the initial MVP push that he did a few weeks ago. But the rest of the community has been doing a lot of really good groundwork laying in terms of how we want this mechanism to work. And so there's a spec in the forum, which I'll add to this document so that everyone can go see that. And there's been a lot of great discussion in the Discord and some personal messages in terms of how people are thinking about this and how we can make this work. And so I think in the next, once we get over this current development sprint with our past proposals, this is going to be something that Brock starts spending most of his time on to get into production. And I think it's going to be something that's extremely exciting. I've had a couple of conversations with people about it, both in YAM and outside of YAM, and it really is filling a interesting niche in terms of, one, the non-KYC element, and two, there's a really strong gamification element that ends up going on in terms of how we're distributing the premiums and the way in which that insurance fund is always growing. It's got a lot of it builds its own momentum in a really exciting way. So I think we're all really excited for that one.
Is there, sorry, I just had a quick question.
Yeah.
Assuming that all of the comp proposals pass, and I know we'll talk more details about those shortly, but assuming that all that happens, do you guys have plans or thoughts on how to grow the team, or at least give Brock a little bit more help on kind of the development needs, whether it be for the insurance protocol or anything else?
Yeah, I think I'm based on how like the tax and legal and regulatory things are shaping up. Seems like one of the best ways to pay for kind of direct contract-based work or community-based work, whatever, is a combination of, upfront contracts and retroactive compensation. So I think something like YCP, or I know Tot is working on a pretty interesting lending protocol iteration, basically putting up, when we submit a snapshot saying, hey, this is the thing that we're doing, submitting along with that a bounty or contract promise for payment that says, okay, the person that completes YCP is going to get a contract reward of 20K YUSD or whatever it is, right? And so I think that's kind of where my current thinking is on how we incentivize kind of specific product development at this point. We could break it down even further. We could separate out the proposals, because again, we're going to need a front end for this. So it's like, what's our budget for the Solidity contract work? What's our budget for the front end development work? Is that half up front, half on completion? Is it just on completion? I think those are definitely conversations that need to be had and thought out. And there's a number of ways we can do it.
Yeah, and in my mind, it's you go the budget route, where you say you do a budget proposal. A team puts together a budget proposal for a particular project, at which point that budget is evaluated on snapshot. That gives green light to go ahead and execute on that. And basically, there's the on completion payment, and also if other people helped in it in some way, then they can be a part of that budget as a whole, as opposed to like, this individual is the designated Solidity developer for this project. It's a little bit more, here's the budget for it, and then afterwards there's a little bit more retroactive. Okay, this is how it's being paid out amongst contributors.
Is there anything that the community, like, if it seems like Brock is the main kind of developer so far on, or will be, for the insurance protocol, but how can we get, obviously I know that we can't throw 100 people at this problem, but is there a situation where we can give Brock more support on this new insurance protocol? And do you want that? Is there something that the community can do to help with that, or how can we get more engineering resources to accelerate maybe some of the development to the extent that you think is helpful?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's super important. I know Nate has, he is interested in helping. I can let Nate speak for himself, but he's expressed interest in helping on the Solidity development side. I think we do need to, it's best if we pull from our community. I think this community is very diverse and has a lot of people that have talents in a lot of places. That doesn't necessarily mean Solidity, and it's not like we need a team of 10 Solidity developers. Like Compound probably has 3 Solidity developers. So I don't think we need a massive Solidity team. I think we need a concentrated group of 3 to 5. And I think depending on Nate's availability and obviously I'm very dedicated DM. It would be great to find one more, but then to attract developers, I think a lot of it's going to come down to I can make a stronger push in my network to find individuals if people from the community do not actively voice their desire to help. It's awesome when community members do, but I will make a concerted effort to reach out to my network to see, because there are a lot of people who are involved in or are YAM holders, but don't necessarily feel invited to work on it right now. And I think that's what is the first thing that we need to switch our messaging to do is really highlight the fact that, hey, we're looking for talent. If you're in the YAM community, we would love for you to start helping.
And by actively voicing, Brock, you're really saying like either by DM or just messaging in the Discord saying like, hey, I'm available, here's my skill set. Here's what I can contribute.
Yeah, and also maybe Twitter, we get on Twitter, we say, hey, we're, YAM is hiring is not necessarily what we're doing, but we have project work for, or compensated work in the YAM community. Like today we had, or yesterday we had NJ from SET put a massive UI pull request on our GitHub just because he's interested in YAM and likely is a part of the YAM community. So there are individuals out there that are super talented that I think if we voice, hey, we're looking for active maintainers, they will heed the call.
Yeah,
So,
all
I
of
know
you guys listening.
Krugman says he's learning Solidity, so never know. Maybe he's one of those guys.
We love that.
But seriously, all you guys listening, if this is something that piques your interest and you have that skill set and you've been looking for a way to get involved, I mean, just reach out. That's really all it takes.
Yeah, and I think that's another Discord channel we can add is basically a volunteer channel where people are able to go and say, hey, I am interested in contributing in some way. Here is my skill set. I really like that idea as well. Basically just like our onboarding process is very light right now. It's a light touch onboarding process. And we need to create probably just some more deliberate channels for that kind of engagement. Okay, that was nice. That was nice meandering. Brock, I also just want to flag that I really do like the idea of a project-based budget. I think that makes a lot of sense. Going on to the protocol mechanic updates, just clarifying some of the rebase parameters, making sure everybody knows we switched the rebase lag from 10 to 20. This basically means that rebases are smoothed out over 10 days, 20 rebases, as opposed to 5 days, 10 rebases, as well as limited the max slippage that a Treasury purchase can have on the market. If you're interested in diving deeper into that rebase mechanic, definitely check out the recently added docs to the website that goes in more depth. And if you still have questions, definitely let us know, because we want that to be a resource where people can really get all of the information they need. As far as the liquidity incentive analysis, obviously we have an on-chain proposal live right now that is currently passing to pause the LP incentives. This is largely because there's been some confusion in the Discord. The incentives are not at this point for distribution or bring more people into the protocol, they're really incentives for a very specific purchase, which is liquidity that the Treasury can buy into when it needs to do a positive rebase. Based on the latest market's action, we're not seeing any positive rebases, so we are just paying liquidity providers for an action that is not actually giving us any benefit, giving the protocol any benefit at this point. And so it seemed like a prudent way to save as much as, because we're going to get this done this week, we're going to save as much as 20% of our total 900,000 balance of underlying YAM incentive budget, which I think is a really big win, such that we can use that incentive budget to be much more deliberate and effective in how we're incentivizing and when we're incentivizing liquidity. So that pausing is not about reducing or eliminating the total amount of incentives that are going to be given out. It's really just about maximizing that impact. So as we look towards the ETH YAM incentives that'll be starting in a couple weeks, we want to do some analysis around exactly how much liquidity we need in the Uniswap pool and what the appropriate levels of incentives are for that. Our current structure is, it started off at 92.5K balance of underlying YAMs per week, decreasing 10% each week. In retrospect, that doesn't necessarily give us the best result that we want, because it creates just this kind of constant downward spiral until there are no more incentives left. What makes more sense likely is analyzing the amount of liquidity we need, analyzing the amount of incentives in order to reach that liquidity, and then basically creating a flat reward each week that allows us to achieve those goals, as opposed to this kind of decrease. And that's, really kind of a level one thinking for how we could do the incentives. There are even more interesting elements in terms of dynamically setting the incentives to achieve that desired amount of liquidity. So I think that's a big piece of analysis that I'm interested in seeing, I'm interested in doing, and want to see some discussion about going forward, because that's a really critical piece, this incentive question, in terms of how the system is operating and how successful at the protocol functionality level it's going to be. Good. Okay, moving on to the governance proposals. Just want to let everybody know that, again, you can go look at the docs for a deeper explanation of how the governance process works. Essentially, we have the forum post. If there's a poll associated with that, and is passing, you can go to a snapshot vote, at which point a passing snapshot vote will then be submitted on chain. So because we've already kind of gone on a while, I won't go too deep into that, but do check the docs for more information on that. And you can see here all the links to the various discussions. So there's a lot of really, really engaged discussion on the forum. So I won't go too deep into that, because there's a lot there. But I've been really encouraged by the activity that I've been seeing in the forum, and how thoughtful and intentional people are trying to be regarding these proposals. It's really fun to see. Cool. I'll just keep going on my rambling. Just touching on the roadmap updates and discussion now. There's obviously my forum post from a while ago that all the contributors kind of worked on together to figure out what some of our short to midterm priorities are. And there's also, I think, a lot of discussion in this Discord about, why is this moving slowly? Why isn't this happening? Oh, we got to do this, we got to do that. And so I just wanted to kind of highlight the stage in which we're in, which is, really being a 2.5-month-old startup from idea to now, and having much of that be governed currently by decentralized governance, which is kind of necessarily a slow moving process. But the way I kind of think about this project is it's a really big project. You've got the protocol and how the protocol itself is going to function in terms of things like rebase lag and max slippage, as well as liquidity incentives, and kind of just how that base YAM protocol is going to be functioning. You've got the Treasury, which currently has 3 million about in it, which, managing a multi-million-dollar fund is also a quite large job, and a complex endeavor that requires a lot of attention. We've got the product side of things that we want to build this financial ecosystem out and really add value to the YAM ecosystem, and so there's a lot of work to be done there. There's the governance process, which is really complicated. There's no playbook. And requires a lot of iteration and optimization in order to make that run as smoothly as possible. So that's also quite a large project. And then there's the communication and the organization and the payment and all of this stuff, right? And so we have these kind of 5 departments that are all really, really complex on their own. And I think a lot of people want us to be operating up here across all 5 of those departments, but we're at the stage right now where we are laying the groundwork in order to ensure the functionality of all those and create a structure that can actually be built upon in the future. So I think that's the stage we're on, and that's where we're seeing a lot of really beneficial discussion. I think each of the proposals that's out right now and a lot of the forum discussions are around, in each of those departments, laying this groundwork that is going to allow the protocol to be really have a really great potential in the future to continue expanding those capabilities and to continue building upon that success. But we're just at level 1 right now, and I personally think that's fine, and that there's a lot of work to be done at level 1, and we need to be intentional about that, such that we can grow over the next few months.
I think it's also important, to note that, as more people volunteer and as the community itself becomes more and more involved and active and proactive, right, the more this is going to snowball into something exciting. I think the vision for YAM is one where the community as a whole is contributing, and it's less about the central team and more about, what is, the community acting for the community's good, overall. And obviously that takes some foundational building just to enable that to happen. But I think that's, also part of that future vision of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen a lot of that kind of already happening. We initially announced the YAM crop protection thing, and Scalectric came in and was like, no, you gotta rejigger all this, right? And it was a huge boost to the structure of that protocol. We say, oh, we want to do some stuff with the Treasury, let's diversify into DPI as a start. And FedEx comes in and is like, no, here's how to actually balance a investment portfolio like this. And so I'm just really encouraged by the way in which the community members have been stepping up and contributing according to their skill set. I think it's really exciting to see. So yeah, totally agree. Moving on to the organizational and contributor updates. I mean, we've kind of been talking about this the whole time, so I won't dive too much into that. Same thing with the protocol needs. You know, we need some front end devs, need some Solidity devs. Right now, the community mods, I mean, they're materializing as needed and as their own passion dictates. So, you know, the fact that this is low priority doesn't mean, you know, oh, don't bother, you know, trying to contribute and get to that, you know, contributing strategist, whatever, community builder position. It's really just that that's been happening so organically that it's not a huge priority for us to kind of push. Education materials, you know, I think one of the great things that we've seen lately is the Chinese translation of the documentation. I think that's a really great thing to do. And so trying to, you know, we have this really global community, and really trying to make sure that we're fostering that and providing support and education to that global community, I think is a really important thing that that we've been doing. I think making a lot of intentional efforts and can continue to do so into the future. And then lastly, branding and mission. There are a couple forum posts on just starting to try and figure out how we can really message around YAM and creating a coherent strategy around that. You know, we hear a lot in the Discord that people are unsure about what YAM is trying to do and what YAM is trying to be. And, you know, it's had this kind of up and down history. And so I think there's a lot of really cool work being done to isolate some of those ideas and create some really coherent messaging and branding around that, which I think will be super helpful for newcomers and for the people that have been around for a long time to kind of crystallize and make sure that they have a good understanding of what they're a part of. So I'm excited to see some of those efforts as well. Cool. Well, that's in general all we have for you. I hope that my my kind of stream of consciousness rambling on these issues has been productive, but I trust that you will let me know in the forum after as we build out this agenda document a little bit, add a few of those links, create a couple action items that I think have come out of this call. And yeah, again, would love feedback on how this went. You know, I think in the future they'll be much shorter. I haven't looked at the YouTube in a while, so I have no idea if we've lost all of our viewers or not. But we'll obviously post this call for people to watch after. And yeah, I think that's all I have. I hope this has again been helpful. Any other contributors, feel free to jump in.
I have a quick question for you guys. What makes you most excited about the future of YAM? And this is a question for anybody, but especially Trent and Brock. Like, what are you most excited about in terms of the YAM experiment?
Yeah, so I'll hop in here. One of the things that's really that I love about YAM is, in a sense, it can provide this sandbox for me as a developer to go play in, right? So one of the things is, as being a US person, that puts certain limitations on what I can provide to the world. YAM is this opportunity for me to have this global audience that if my idea is sound and the YAM community votes on it, I can see this product go from idea to implementation. I think that's really cool, and I would love to see other developers recognize that and see that they can basically make anything that they want inside this YAM umbrella if the community wants it as well. I think that's really super cool, and not pretty much nothing else in the space can offer. I also love the Treasury and what that affords the YAM community.
Yeah, I would echo that idea of kind of, as Ross is posting, YAM Combinator, just the way in which it can be a developer playground for people to experiment and deploy things that it's hard to do without such a DAO infrastructure. I think in general, though, what is most exciting is just like the degree to which we are constantly doing things that have like never really been done before. There's so much experimentation that we're pursuing and endeavoring to do, and I love this idea of just like really being on the vanguard of this intersection of programmable finance and decentralized governance. It feels like we are on a truly great adventure with potentially some uncertainty, and like being comfortable with that uncertainty and turning that into excitement for the potential is I think something that gets me up in the morning and pumped to continue working on this, as well as of course just like the community that it's again attracting, I think has been really phenomenal, and I'm pumped to have gotten introduced to so many interesting people through it.
What would you say? Another tough question. Just it's okay if well, just try to answer it the best you can. There's a lot of people in Discord who are whining that things aren't moving fast enough. They're whining about how the price has just been a spiral down. What would you say to the people who are not happy with the way the markets have reacted to YAM, or at least the YAM token up to this point? Like, how do you respond to those types of comments, and what do you have to say to them?
I mean, fundamentally, like, we are, again, an experiment that is really trying new things. And I think people just had a misunderstanding of, the thing that we were trying to do. I think a lot of people thought that we were going to be just a Wi-Fi fork, and we were maybe going to do some vaults and kind of be a harvest farm type thing. But the orientation of the project, I think, is really turning out to be quite different. And like fundamentally, it's wildly out of our control that during V2, in which all we have is this future rebasing token, that we had $100 million market cap, and we were a month and a half old project. I think in general, all we can do is continue attracting talent, continue trying new things, and continue building. And in the long term, if we do those things, we're going to build something that is not just a flavor of the month, but builds a brand and a protocol that is constantly pushing the bounds and leading the way in terms of how a DAO can operate.
Go YAM! I'm excited. Let's do it.
This is also, honestly, it kind of ties back into your first question, Mick, but I think, one of the cool things about crypto, right, is it's a big sandbox. It's a big financial sandbox. And the cool thing about it is there's room for all kinds of people and all kinds of risk profiles. It is obviously riskier than like traditional securities and whatnot, but if you're more conservative and there are institutions and companies and protocols that you can utilize that are more conservative, right, and that are going to give you more predictable results. Like Coinbase is about to launch their own IPO, right? So as far as crypto goes, I mean, that's as conservative as you can get. And then there's also room for the risk takers and the explorers and the experimenters. And I'd say YAM is probably a little bit more towards that side of things. But that's the cool thing about this space, right? Is there's room for both. And as it progresses and as YAM progresses, right? I mean, I can imagine a day when YCP is firmly established and has a great reputation, and people are just like, oh yeah, that's a really stable thing, right? And no one will remember the fact that it was like highly contentious and debated and all that stuff. Once it's kind of proven itself, and then there'll be other YAM products that are, really risky and highly debated, and people are fighting about it, and that sort of thing. And so I think that's something that you just have to, as any investor, right? You have to do your own research. That's paramount. And then also just take stock of your own risk profile and figure out like where in that sandbox do you want to live? Where should the majority of your funds live? Maybe, there's, you kind of separate it out into, the majority of what I'm going to do is going to be in this space that's a little safer, but then maybe I'll put some of it in this that's a little riskier, but just, be self-aware and acknowledge like your risk profile and what you're okay with and what you're not. I love YAM, so I would never tell anyone just, don't invest in YAM, but know what you're getting into as well and make sure it lines up with what you want out of your crypto.
Totally agree.
Yeah, we have a question on YouTube. How is the team's morale in light of all the craziness that has happened over the last few weeks? I can only speak personally, but the movement in a week does not. I have a little bit of a longer view on this than a speculator. So, and I know what's coming down the pike and how much we have planned, and so. In my mind, it doesn't affect me as much as other people, but I also don't get stressed out very easily. So maybe other people can hop in. I'm in good morale. I'm still super excited on YAM and what we're building and where this is all going. So I'm if anyone else wants to hop in as to how they've been holding up, I would love to hear that as well.
Yeah, I would echo that. Morale, I think morale on a personal level, my personal morale is quite high. I've been so encouraged by a lot of the thoughts that are coming out of the forum and in the Discord. And it's crypto. Like, you're gonna have people who are pissed off and complaining. It's like there's not a protocol out there that doesn't have that type of person in the Discord. And to some degree, like, those people are, when they're actually thoughtful and contributing valid criticism, are like essential to the success of the protocol, because we need skeptics that are asking the tough questions. And so it's just a balancing act of tuning out the stuff that is misguided and paying attention to the valid criticism and making sure that we're making the improvements that we need. But I think we've got a lot of exciting things going on, so I'm pretty excited.
And just, so everyone knows, we'll be obviously able to answer further questions on the Discord and in the forum. So please, like, if you're catching this late, not live, definitely post in the forum and ask, hey, I had a question about this thing, or could I get some more info? Because the last thing we want anyone to do is feel like they don't understand. We want to, we want to be as transparent as we can, right? That's how the community learns and grows. And it's, you can't have good community governance if the community doesn't understand what's happening.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I think that probably about wraps it up, unless another question pops up in the chat right now, or if any of the other contributors have questions. But again, hopefully this was helpful, and you get to see you viewers get to see our faces and things, and see that we're real people with a pulse, which you knew already, but sometimes it's nice to see in the flesh. So yeah, we'll be posting this stuff to the forum. Give us the feedback, give us the criticism. We love to hear it, and looking forward to doing this again next week. Thanks to all our other contributors on the call. Appreciate you guys.
Guys, we're going to stop broadcasting, but again, head to the forum if you have any questions, and we'll answer them as we're able.